a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is Mitu.
And my name is BJ.
And this week, you nerds wanted us to watch Teen Wolf, originally airing on MTV and now available on Hulu. Plus, probably a lot of other streamers.
Like Prime Video, where I watched it.
Oh, nice.
And stay tuned to the end when I'm going to ask Mitu some biting questions about what she would do if she was a teen wolf.
Not biting. That's so funny. Okay. Sorry, that really surprised me. Why don't you let us know what happened in this first episode?
Sure. This 2011 series revolves around Scott McCall, played by Tyler Posey. He's a high school student living in California, and he's going to become a teenage werewolf after he's bitten in the woods. And from there, he has to understand how to live this new identity with day-to-day teenage life and new super abilities. Mitu, what were your impressions of this series?
I had never seen Teen Wolf. I was happy to see it recommended by a few people. It is very fun, and I get why it had the hive that it did when it came out. And I get why y'all are such big fans still of the two leads. This first episode was very well paced, and there were so many fun, campy moments that I was just entertained from start to finish.
I agree, and I think you make a good point about when this came out. It was in the middle of that big YA adaptation push, and while this isn't an adaptation, it fits in that vibe of like Hunger Games and Maze Runner, even Harry Potter. So this was fitting. And Twilight. That's probably the most relevant example.
But true, instead of waiting a year for your faves to come back and bite each other, make each other vampires or whatever y'all are into, you got to sit down every week on MTV and watch people bite each other. I bet that was so fun.
And I think they really set up a nice, easy story. It's a classic premise. You get bit by a wolf. Now you have these changes and you turn into a werewolf during the full moon. And I liked seeing, even though this is pretty stereotypical, I like seeing Scott have to balance trying to go after his school crush and go against the school bully and fit in high school while understanding what's happening to his body.
Yes, because the powers work for him and they work against him. So we see him get really good at lacrosse, which was very popular at his school. And we see him become overwhelmed by certain sounds because he has very good hearing now as a werewolf, to the point where he's distracted or sometimes in such pain. It seems almost like the equivalent of a migraine, where he can't talk to his crush or he's unable to pay attention to class or on the lacrosse field. I thought they played that very classic premise of someone gets powers and then figures out how to use them in their day-to-day life very well. And we didn't really see him use his powers much for the superhero of it all, or however that looks when you're a werewolf. But I think that they have some setup for us to start seeing him do that. And I look forward to that as well.
Speaking of the setup, what did you think of some of the more mysterious aspects? We see a character, Derek Hale, played by Tyler Hoechlin, who just appears and disappears in the woods and seems to know a lot that's going on. And we even find out there may be people who are anti-werewolf in this town.
That was very juicy, the anti-werewolf reveals. We cannot spoil much, but that was very fun in this pilot episode. And then the thing that cracked me up about Derek, and also about Stiles, the friend, is that there is this classic thing in these shows where people get powers where they're kind of casual about it and their best friend is also casual about it too. And so he sees Derek in the woods as himself, maybe as another being, and he just truly doesn't blink at it. He just has adjusted. He's like, I guess this is just what life is now. At one point, Scott goes to sleep. He wakes up in a forest, does not question it, just comes home, just returns to his bed.
That's so true. Scott has accepted his new abilities pretty quickly. He literally got bit by a wolf on his abdomen, and just covered that up himself, went about his day. Weird things are happening, and he and Stiles are like, huh, that's different. Anyway.
I loved the scene where Stiles has those old-looking books, and then he's going between that and on early internet Googling what Scott could be or what could be happening. So his friend handles it really well. There's even a point where Scott wants to go to a party, and Stiles is like, you shouldn't go because I think it's going to be a full moon. And what I learned on the threads in the chapters of the book, etc., is that you cannot be in a heightened emotional state. And nothing gets you heightened like your new crush. And it was just so funny that Stiles is like, this is just how we have to adapt to life now.
That's true. He was very concerned for his friend. He was rooting for Scott when he was doing the lacrosse tryouts. He's researching how to help Scott adapt to his new abilities. That's just a loyal buddy.
And there are some very funny on-the-nose scenes. When Scott is in class and he first starts noticing powers just a little bit, his English teacher writes Kafka's Metamorphosis on the board. And so it's just a little on the nose. And then Scott works at an animal clinic. And before he understands what he is, he walks into a room of cats, I guess, at the animal clinic. And they all start hissing. I was like, okay, we're having fun.
And since this is MTV, there's a line when he's talking to his mom before his date. And she's like, I do not want this to be all about a teenager having a child.
Yes.
We can't have no teen mom going on Teen Wolf.
Very on the nose through and through.
What did you think of his crush, Allison, played by Crystal Reed?
I liked her as a love interest. She's a classic 2010s, mid-2000s love interest. Dark hair, mysterious, not like other girls, you know, not a blonde, not someone who is frivolous, not popular girl. You know, I'm in shorts and she's on the bleachers. What are the lyrics? It's that.
Oh,
but
I know what song you're
as
talking
a character.
But that's it.
I'm so sorry to that
Taylor
hive.
Swift.
Taylor Swift hive. I'm in a t-shirt. She's in a
She's
skirt.
in short shorts. I'm
on the bleachers.
She
Something
wears
like that.
tank tops. I wear sneakers.
Exactly. That's the exact dynamic with Allison. But I think to the credit of the show, she is not just that. She's already interesting, and I think there's potential for her to be even more interesting. So beyond just flat, mysterious crush.
True. She has personality. They're trying to develop her. She has some things going on where she even has to ask Scott for help in this episode. But also, Scott does something that if a date did that to me, I don't know if I would give them a second chance, especially if this is a first date, I'm new to school, and I just met you.
That's true. I would not have accepted Scott back into my life, but Allison sees the vision in the way that I don't, and that's why they don't call me Raven Baxter. So it just is what it is. I do really like Scott, though, and Stiles as leads. Although this is such a classic setup, I think one thing that helps set the show apart, and I imagine what helped people really fall in love with it, was these two friends as leads, because Stiles is the other love interest here. He is such a believable buddy for Scott. I really love their dynamic. And then Scott himself is just adorable as well. There's a scene where I think the bully, the jock, this emerging villain character, but not in the wolf world, in the school world, basically accuses Scott of taking steroids, and he confronts him by the lockers because he's been doing so well at lacrosse, and he's like, where are you getting your juice? And Scott is like, my mom does all the grocery shopping. And I was like, so taken by that. I just thought that was adorable.
Yes, I like that he comes across as a real teenager, for TV at least, and there's really good chemistry between our lead actors. Like, they not only have well-written best friend characters, but I think they sell it well. 'Cause you're like, I believe this friendship from the start.
And I like it.
Yes, we want to see more of it.
So, do you want to see more of Teen Wolf, originally airing on MTV and now streaming on lots of different platforms?
Well, since it's so accessible, I think I would watch again casually. It's fun. It's pretty light, but there's a good amount of mystery. It's easy to watch. And I think I want to see what happens to Scott as he embraces his werewolf powers. How do you feel?
I feel the same way. If you are also in work from home hive, I think this is one that I recommend to watch while you work. This is going to be a perfect background show for me. It is very fun, and I'm intrigued to understand what happens next. And I get why y'all were such strong hive. I think I'm part of the wolf pack now. Is that what we call ourselves?
I don't know, but you can start that name.
We're in the wolf pack now, babies.
Speaking of that, Mitu, let's discuss a hypothetical question. Okay, we're set the stage. It's years ago. You're in college. You're off on your own. And as you're walking back to your dorm at night, you're bit by a wolf. And then the next day, you tell me, I can hear better. I can run faster. What's going on? How are you going to embrace this new life, Mitu, as a teen wolf?
I guess I would make you tell me everything that's happening, because it is true that if something so terrifying happened to me, I wouldn't actually have waited till the next day. I would have simply showed up to your door and been like, I think a wolf bit me. Because for our listeners, BJ and I lived literally down the hall from each other and were often visiting each other with issues. So this would just be another one where I'd be like, I need help. Less with like a science class and more with just a science experiment now on my own person. And so I would just have you go to the library, hit the books, figure out what's going on with me.
Do some research. I'd say, me too. I don't think there are wolves on campus, but I'll run with it. Okay, let's see.
And then I guess I would probably not join any wolf pack or be part of any potential wars. I imagine that's an upcoming storyline in Teen Wolf because it's present in all of these YA stories.
Okay, no rivalries for you.
No, I would just join like the track team and then go to the Olympics.
Oh, that's right. You could join the sports team and be a star player.
Exactly. Because one thing I learned watching the Olympics, and Olympics Hive will know this, those track athletes were very attractive. And I would like to be part of the mix.
Okay, but what would you do if like we were going out with some friends on a Friday night and it's full moon out? I'd
probably have to have like the equivalent of a period tracker app, but for the moon. Mm-hmm. And then I would just know to not go to the movies or whatever on the full moon nights.
Just be like, I have a tummy ache. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't buy it. Your secret will get out.
No. I would be very discreet. I'd be a very discreet wolf.
No, it's fine. I'd probably try and use your powers for my own personal gain.
That's like, absolutely true.
Break into there.
I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you admitted it.
Use your super strength. Break in there. Or eavesdrop. What are they saying over there? Listen.
I would eavesdrop, though. Ooh, I would eavesdrop. I love eavesdropping.
You'd sit on the quad and just listen to every conversation.
I do that now. I don't have super hearing or anything. But if somebody's having a really juicy conversation next to me at a cafe or restaurant, I'll pop my headphones in, nothing playing. And I'm just 100% tuned in on what they're doing.
So you'd just be a super spy with your werewolf powers.
Yes, but nothing important, nothing that furthers anyone's safety. It's like, ooh, I know this fun secret about strangers that has zero stakes.
That's not going to make for a good adaptation of your life story.
No, I'm not filmable. I'm very boring.
We would write a book about your college adventures as a teen wolf.
No, but I do recommend the Legendborn series. Very good YA storybook series set at a college.
And no wolves that I remember.
No wolves, I don't think.
Okay, Mitu. Well, if people want other recommendations for TV shows, they can listen to our podcast at thepilotpodcast.com, and they can follow us on all of their favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on social media at The Pilot Pod on Instagram, X, and TikTok. And you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, because every other week, just like this one, we do a show recommended by you, our wonderful listeners, to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.